Hello, my name is Alan Lonson, and I'm a 10th generation Acadian. My ancestors settled on this basin in 1664 when Charles Melanson and his wife Molly Juga bought a small farm just downriver called Melanson Settlement. This basin and river that surrounds us all the way up to paradise is really the cradle of the Acadian people. From this tidal river, people settled here, started building dikes, reclaimed the salt marshes, and developing a very self-sufficient, independent lifestyle. Today, December 8th, is the date in 1755 when all this independent, self-sufficient living came to an end. On this date, Acadians were deported from Annapolis Royal, from this wharf, the King's Wharf that was built in 1740 by British troops. Wharf used to extend 150 meters out. There was water at the end, just even at low tide. You have a 29-foot tide on this river. The Acadians, after refusing to take a final oath stating we'd fight with the British against the French, were ordered deported from this land. This site is one of many deportation sites, but it's a forgotten one. Nobody wrote a poem about the Annapolis Royal deportation, and it's kind of forgotten in history. There's no major marker here marking this as an Acadian site. I might mention the officer in charge here, Major John Hanfield. The task was a bit difficult, the one before him, because he had married an Acadian woman. Although he didn't have to deport his own wife and children, he did have to deport relatives of his own family. Some of the British had married Acadian women in this area as well. So there were ties here between the British and the Acadians that might not have been seen in other settlements. When we refused, ships eventually came to this basin, sailed in, 7 ships, and 1 escort vessel, the Baltimore, loaded the Acadians. The ship's named the Helena, destination Massachusetts, 51 men, 52 women, 219 children. The Edward, destination Connecticut, 41 men, 42 women, 195 children. The Two Sisters, destination Connecticut, 42 men, 40 women, 198 children. The Experiment, New York, 40 men, 45 women, 115 children. The Pembroke, bound for North Carolina, 33 men, 37 women, 162 children. The Hobson, South Carolina, 42 men, 46 women, 254 children. There was a schooner bound for South Carolina with 1 man, 1 woman, 7 children. In total, 251 men, 263 women, and 1,150 children were deported from this area. One vessel, the Pembroke, was anchored out about 8 kilometers upriver near Goat Island. That's where the Acadians surrounding the Melanson settlement and the Gibos that were a bit further downriver, they were deported from that area. But I'm going to walk what's left of the wharf, the end where the other 6 vessels came in and sailed out. December 8th, not far before Christmas, a little over 2 weeks. So you can imagine people who had lived in this landscape now for 3, 4 generations had to now leave all they had behind and depart to British colonies that would not accept with open arms. The Acadians were French Catholics and of the opposing nation in wartime. So you can imagine what people would have been thinking. The despair, the sorrow, the sadness, the anger, hopelessness as they walked along this wharf to the end where vessels would have been awaiting. Some were crying, some were giving words of maybe encouragement, but the Acadians were strong and had dealt with problems before. They really didn't maybe know the area they were going, but they were going to try to survive and do the best of their situation, and with the hope of maybe coming back here to Port Royal, the cradle of Acadia, now Annapolis Royal. Other deportations had already taken place. Beau Séjour in the Beaubassin area. The Grand Pré was in full swing. Pisiquid, Windsor today. 1,000 Acadians were deported there under Alexander Murray, Captain Murray, and over 2,202 from Grand Pré. I think Colonel John Winslow in charge there. Today, there's rocks going out there. But at the time, the Acadians would have walked to the end of those rocks and beyond, loaded on ships. Hello, this is Al Melanson, the Historical Association of Annapolis Royal, and we are going to do something to mark the Acadian Deportation site in Annapolis Royal, but I want to show one of the markers we've already done. We used the profits from the Historical Association of Annapolis Royal's Candlelight Graveyard Course to fund these projects that interpret the history of Annapolis Royal. This is a monument we erected in 2010 to show the site of the Acadian graveyard of Saint Jean-Baptiste Parish of Port Royal. This is where many of our ancestors are buried. We use wooden crosses. They've rotted with time. But we want to show that this was an Acadian graveyard as well. And so we put this monument. It states that between 1632 and 1755, that Acadians, French civil servants, and French military personnel who were Catholic would have been buried in this graveyard. We are going to do a great monument along the waterfront where it was showing the deportation scene and site. We're commissioning Brad Hall to do a monument that will be in the shape of a stylized bench and ship to show a site that Acadians were deported from, 1,664, 1755. The bench part of the monument will allow you to sit and contemplate about what happened here, how you feel about it, and really draw on the emotional senses of sight, sound, smell. You get a feel for the place that your ancestors were deported from. The mast will be in the shape of a cross, and I believe it's going to be close to 14 feet high, this mast. So it'll be a unique monument that will face the water, where the Acadians come in to settle, and where we left during the deportation. We're also going to put by the monument an interpretive panel. It's using a painting by William Vondel with the permission of Ben Proudfoot of Breakwater Studios, an Academy Award-winning producer and director from Nova Scotia, now in Hollywood. But he's got the only painting that was commissioned to show the deportation from the Acadian area here in Annapolis Royal. And the painting will show Acadians walking out towards the waterfront. On the panel, we'll put a few details to outline the major facts of the deportation and list of the ships on which Acadians were deported. Another thing we're going to try and do, and it's in the works, is to correct an error on the Historic Sites and Monument Board of Canada plaque marking the Melanson Settlement National Historic Site. The last phrase on the plaque, people lived there until 1755, when it was abandoned. My wife Jolene and I have written to correct that statement. We did not abandon the Melanson Settlement. We were deported from the site. We want to see a statement that is closer to the truth, because that is an unmanned, unstaffed site, and we want the plaque there to tell the story as it should be with the proper context. We are using funds from the graveyard tour because those tours were set up to help interpret the story of Fort Anne and Port Royal, and we feel that the Acadian part of the story, as does Park Canada, needs to be enhanced and further explained, and we are going to do what we can to help explain this story through tours and through lasting monument legacies. Come visit us, not only in 2024 for the World Congress, but every year. These plaques will be here, and we'll give you a touchstone to help connect with your history. So remember the date in history, December 8th, 1755, the date that 1,664 Acadians were deported from Annapolis Royal.